Well, I didn't believe it in the first place. I thought, why would he suddenly be all cosy and nice and want to come? And why on earth would Meghan speak to King Charles if she hates the monarchy so much? I think that you can't actually continue to do that without any gratitude. There was no gratitude. Meghan wouldn't be known for anything if she hadn't actually married Harry and been in the royal family.
You sound like a troll. You sound like a social media troll. Everything you can point out that's incorrect.
Very rude. You don't call someone a troll with respect. That's without respect.
No, it is with respect.
Let me talk about something else. Abigail Spencer, who is also a friend of Meghan's, she was given the 6th jar of jam. It makes good news. People want to read about it. So I think quite soon they'll get bored stiff. But there's something compelling about hearing all this nastiness between, you just want to know, you want to hear about it. You can't believe it. You can't believe what he's saying. You can't believe the lies he's telling.
Royal watchers, fasten your seatbelts because the Sussex story just took a wild turn and the whispers coming out of palace circles could change everything you thought you knew about Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. For years, the narrative has been simple. A love story that defied the odds, a prince who chose love over tradition, and a woman who paid the price for stepping into the most famous family in the world. But according to new claims from palace biographer Angela Levin, that fairy tale might not have been quite so simple. In fact, she insists Meghan never had Harry in her sights first. Her original target, the heir himself, Prince William. And if that's true, then the entire royal saga we've been fed, from the Grand Windsor wedding to the Netflix documentaries, might have been nothing more than Plan B. Think about it. The Duchess who framed herself as the misunderstood outsider, the cold-shouldered American who couldn't catch a break, may actually have been aiming for the future king before pivoting to the spare. That's not just a twist, it's a total rewrite of the royal script. And what makes this even more explosive is the detail, the pattern, and the silence surrounding it. Because if Meghan and her camp thought this rumor would fade on its own, they may have underestimated how much this revelation changes the entire story. Angela Levin isn't a random gossip columnist tossing out wild speculation. She's a biographer with deep palace ties, someone who has been speaking to royal aides, staffers, and insiders for years. And what she's saying is both scandalous and strangely believable. According to Levin, palace staff noticed Meghan's interest in William early on. Not romantically, she insists, but strategically. It wasn't about flirtation, it was about proximity. The closer you stand to the heir, the more influence you hold. And Meghan, who already knew how to play the high society game from her Hollywood connections, allegedly wasn't shy about getting close. Think about those early days. Meghan wasn't just some wide-eyed actress stumbling into royal circles. She was already networking with stylists, publicists, and political donors long before Harry was even in the picture. She knew how to work a room. She knew the power of being noticed. And according to Levin, she made sure William noticed her. But William, who has lived his whole life under a microscope, spotted the game instantly. Palace insiders say he kept it polite, but distant. He didn't bite. Kate, meanwhile, allegedly saw through the act as well. That sisterly bond Meghan later claimed she wanted? Levin says it never stood a chance. Not because of cultural clashes or personality differences, but because Kate could sense what Meghan was really after. And once you see your husband being studied a little too closely, you don't exactly roll out the red carpet for friendship. Here's where the drama really starts to sting. Imagine being Kate, heavily pregnant, standing at a royal event, and noticing another woman's eyes linger on your husband. According to insiders, that's exactly what happened. Reports claim Meghan's gaze sometimes wandered toward William in ways that did not go unnoticed. At one event, Meghan allegedly mimicked Kate's positioning. When Kate moved closer to William after greeting guests, Meghan did the same with Harry, but with her eyes allegedly drifting. It wasn't overt, but it was enough for those around to take note. Harry himself reportedly picked up on the restlessness, stepping in with a subtle but firm hand on Meghan's back, as if to reel her in. And William? He had his own quiet tactic. Whenever Meghan tried to engage too closely, he would adjust his scarf or shift his stance, politely but firmly drawing a line. Now, before anyone thinks this was some torrid love triangle, let's be clear. Levin never suggested William entertained Meghan's interest. Quite the opposite. The claim is that William saw through it early and refused to play along. And that decision, according to insiders, shaped everything that followed. Meghan pivoted. Harry, emotionally open, deeply craving love and stability, became the next move. He was single, available, and less guarded. Within weeks, dates turned into commitment, and suddenly, Meghan had exactly what she needed, a royal path, even if it wasn't the original one. If that's true, then what we've been sold as a whirlwind romance might actually have been a calculated reroute. And that's where the scandal deepens. Because the idea that Harry was a backup plan cuts right at the heart of their brand. Everything Meghan and Harry have built, from multi-million-dollar Netflix deals to sold-out speaking engagements, hinges on one core story. Theirs is a love that conquered the crown, a romance that put emotion above duty. But if Harry was never the first choice, then suddenly, it doesn't look like a love story at all. It looks like a strategy. And here's the kicker. Meghan hasn't denied it. Normally, when the press prints something she doesn't like, her team responds swiftly. Whether it's a legal letter, a carefully worded public statement, or a subtle clapback in an interview, Meghan has always been quick to push back against narratives she deems false. But this time, silence. No denial, no deflection, nothing. That silence has become its own statement, and for critics, it's as good as an admission. Let's not pretend this is happening in a vacuum either. Meghan's history has always shown the same pattern, relationships that doubled as ladders. Her first marriage to Trevor Engelson wasn't some small-town romance. He was a Hollywood producer who opened doors. When that ended, her next circles of friends included stylists, socialites, and even political donors. Each connection elevated her. Each step moved her closer to power. It wasn't cartoonish gold-digging, it was ambition, carefully executed. And that's exactly why Levin's claims about William sting so deeply. They don't feel like a random smear, they feel like the missing puzzle piece in a pattern we've seen before. Even Meghan's biggest fans admit she's ambitious. But it's not a crime. But ambition wrapped in romance, that's where people feel deceived, because no one wants to believe the fairy tale was actually a business plan. And yet, if you trace the timing, the networking, the positioning, it starts to look less like fate and more like strategy. The palace, of course, isn't publicly touching these rumors. They don't need to. They've learned by now that silence is its own weapon. Every time Meghan claims victimhood, the royal family says nothing, letting public perception shift on its own. But behind the scenes, insiders are smirking. For years, they were painted as cold, unwelcoming, even racist. Meghan's narrative painted them as villains who couldn't accept her. But what if the real reason for the coldness wasn't her skin color or nationality, but suspicion? What if they already saw the ambition before the rest of the world did, and what if this new claim simply proves them right? And then there's Harry. Poor Harry, who once branded himself as the most genuine royal, the one who would never play palace games. If Meghan really did see him as Plan B, then what does that make him? Not the prince who chose love over duty, but the man who didn't realize he was the second option. That's brutal, not just for his public image, but for his own self-image. Every decision he's made since, leaving the royal family, trashing his relatives in interviews, exposing private family moments in a memoir, suddenly looks like the fallout of being played. If he wasn't the love story's hero, but the backup plan, then maybe he's still fighting battles that were never truly his to begin with. And it's not just Meghan and Harry's image at risk here. The palace is allegedly moving in ways that cut deeper than gossip columns. Insiders whisper that King Charles has quietly pushed forward with constitutional maneuvers that strip Archie and Lilibet of royal titles once and for all. No His Royal Highness. No formal roles, no perks, just cold paperwork, backed by the 1917 letters patent, shutting the Sussex children out completely. For Meghan, that's devastating. She positioned herself as a modern royal mom, giving her kids the best of both worlds. Now that image is collapsing. For Harry, it's humiliating. Behind the scenes, reports say he's scrambling to save face, while the palace's silence makes the move even louder. And then there's the birth certificate drama that refuses to die. Remember when Archie's record was suddenly edited, removing Meghan's full name and replacing it with Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Sussex? That wasn't some minor clerical update, It was a rewrite of history. Meghan tried to blame the palace, but the palace fired back, denying involvement. Who makes that kind of change, and why? The secrecy around Archie's birth, the lack of traditional hospital steps photos, the shift in paperwork, none of it sits right. Add in the equally opaque details around Lilibet's birth, and the whispers just grow louder. When you put it all together, the picture is explosive. A duchess who may have aimed for William, pivoted to Harry, and built an empire on a love story that might not have been love at all. A palace that's finally hitting back not with public statements, but with cold, calculated moves that speak louder than words. A fan base that's slowly starting to ask whether they were sold a fairy tale under false pretenses. And Meghan's silence? That's the most dangerous part. Because in gossip, denial is defense. But silence is gasoline on the fire. So, where does that leave the Sussexes now? If the public stops buying the romance, what's left? A fractured relationship with the royal family? A Netflix deal on shaky ground? A dwindling fan base? And a brand built on a foundation that might be crumbling? For Harry, it's even worse. The world is starting to wonder if he's not the strong, rebellious prince writing his own destiny, but a man trapped in someone else's script. One thing is clear, this royal saga is far from over. The palace may keep its silence, but the whispers are only growing louder. Meghan may hope the story fades, but with every day of silence, it only gains more traction. And for Harry, the painful question lingers. Was he ever really the one? Or was he always just the convenient second choice? Because if the answer leans toward the latter, then the Sussex fairy tale isn't just cracked, it's shattered.